Welcome back to our discussion of Are You Afraid of the Dark Season 2. If you missed part 1, the link is in the description. If not, enjoy.
So the Tale of the Whispering Walls has siblings at long last. There's no romance involved in this episode. Haunted house. It has like all the ingredients of a good Are You Afraid of the Dark episode. I think what derails this for me is the acting. I don't love the two lead actors in this.
The laugh in the dark ride was awesome. When Zeebo jumped out, I almost croaked. You're so childish.
What do you think?
Yeah, I actually gave the acting a pretty high rating on this, but that might just be the babysitter is doing a lot.
Yep, agreed.
She's doing a lot of work. Master Raymond, as ridiculous as he is bringing that like over the top gravitas. So
yeah, he's strange.
I think it's the adults that are doing the heavy lifting in the episode.
Which is rare in these. The plot is all over the place, but I do find something kind of weirdly compelling about it. It's like a fever dream. Like, it is pretty original in its own way. It feels like one of those script generators where they like fed every episode from season 1, and this was like the script that came out. Because it is like, there is a discernible villain at the end, but initially it's like there are ghosts, there's moving things, it's haunted house, it's this, there's like the wind is somehow involved. There's a lot in this.
Shut that door. He hates traps.
Yeah, there's so much that it just doesn't feel like it's ever coming together fully. Like you say, it does. It feels like somebody just plugged in some sort of, we need a scary script. And the computer was like, these are scary things.
Yeah. I gave the plot a 6. It's incredibly strange. I don't like the villain. I don't find him scary. And the fact that he's defeated by wind is very bizarre.
It's one of the dumbest things ever.
But I was like, I found the whole episode entertaining. Like, they throw everything in there, and so at least it's compelling. You know, they like put a bunch of peripheral characters. There were moments I really, really liked. I'm trying to think. Oh, the mirrors, the like mirror effect with the people behind the framed mirror kind of things I thought was kind of cool. The ending, though, with the one ghost turning on the other ghost, it was so bizarre. Like, so those moments where I'm like, what? Who wrote this?
Yeah, that's it. There's a lot of moments that happen that you're like, wait, where did that come from? Why is that a thing?
Yeah.
For sure. I gave the plot a 6 as well, so we're on the same page there.
That's the first time this season we've given the same score in a category, I think.
Yeah, but it is wacky. It's so bizarre. Like, it's just like the fact that like Raymond shows up and he's given like serious creeper vibes, and the fact that anybody would listen to him for like directions.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but his toward the end, is there not he's trying to get women to stay?
I don't even know if it's women, because I think it's just supposed to be travelers.
But doesn't he take the babysitter and then he beckons the sister over and then he's just like, okay.
Yeah, maybe, but I mean, maybe that's just like his progression. Like, he'll get to the kid eventually, because there were male ghosts in the tavern or whatever when they went back.
Right.
But like you said, none of that ever comes to a head. Like, when the kids go back, it feels so forced, by the way, that they like trek all the way back to this bar to get essentially no information, just to have the scene with these ghosts that goes nowhere.
Why did the bar exist at all? Other than to have a reveal of like, whoa, there was no one here. Like, you could have done that in the house.
Yeah, the house should have been part of the bar. Like, it should have been like a hotel or something. Like, just make it all one location.
Yeah.
But the fact that they travel back and forth so many times, I was like, what is the point of this?
A hotel would have been much scarier. And I think as a setting they maybe never use in Are You Afraid of the Dark? I don't remember any hotel episodes.
No, because even Captured Souls isn't even a hotel. It's just a house that they're renting.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah.
Bizarre. I gave the acting a 4. I was not crazy about the kids. You're right, the babysitter was good. I didn't like the villain either, but he also, it's a tall order. And some of these villains they write as being these really like, they're just eccentric. They're not, like, there's nothing really scary about him. They put him in like, I don't know. I couldn't even tell the era he was meant to be dressed as.
They're performing for stage in front of a camera.
Correct. 100%. Yeah.
Take the dirt road outside. It travels through the woods and will cut miles off your trip.
And and I mean, at this point for Are You Afraid of the Dark, again, watching it with adult eyes, when it happens, I just sit back and enjoy it. I just get some popcorn and just see how much scenery this guy can chew.
Completely. Yeah, completely. I mean, I felt the same way about the boss in Midnight Madness. At a certain point, you just have to accept it for what it is. You can't be that critical of it in the same way that you'd be critical of other shows. You're like, right. It's where it reveals that the show is meant for kids. You're like, they would find this entertaining and they wouldn't question it. So,
yeah, I gave the acting an 8. Which is funny because now that we're talking about it, I don't actually remember the kids all that much, which probably goes to speak that they weren't very good. But I just keep thinking about the babysitter because she has to do so many different things in the episode. You know, she has to be scared at some point. She has to be normal at some point. She has to be evil at one point. She has to go through all these different things. And I thought she did it really well.
Yeah, and it's all pretty grounded and she was good. I don't take back my 4 out of 10. I think it's deserved.
In fact, I think I went a little high. If anything, I think I think I'm on the high side there. It probably should be a 6, maybe.
What did you think of the setting?
Okay. So aside from them going back and forth, the bar or whatever it is, take that out. I hate that.
Yep.
The house itself, I think, is a great setting. And I think when it's there and they use it, I think they use it great. I think there's a lot of creepy elements to the house and great creepy moments throughout. So I think that part of the setting, I think, is great. It's phenomenal. It's one of the best haunted houses I think they've done.
I totally agree. It has very Haunted Mansion, Magic Kingdom kind of vibes, but effective. They make it a little darker and a little eerier. I literally wrote that. I said, I love the sets for this. It's all super well done, except for the bar. The bar I thought was so stupid, but the twisting wall and the doll room, there's dolls, you know what I mean? It's all antique-y and it all fits in an era. It creates an interesting atmosphere. So I gave the setting an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, they threw a snake at a child. That's great.
Yeah, actually, that moment was really good. I thought there were a few interesting scares.
I gave the setting an 8 for this one. I think they did a really good job with that.
Yeah, and then scares I gave 7. I thought it was again, it's a lot of atmospheric stuff. I think it was creepy, which was really well done. There's not a huge amount of scare moments, but the ones they did were good. And I thought most of the effects I thought were really cool. The stuff with when the babysitter gets trapped in the kind of statue thing, the bust. And again, I really liked the cutout picture effect, where it was a practical effect, I think, where they had the actors on another side of a mirror and the lights kind of coming up on them. But it was well done. I bet that shot took ages to do.
Yeah, I give it a 9, and I think, in retrospect, I think the setting is improving my scares score, because I think the scary moments that happen are a result of the atmosphere as well. So I don't think it's as scary as I gave it a rating for. I think the atmosphere is doing a lot to sell the scares that are there.
If anything, the villain kind of undermines the scares in it. That moment when he peers through the hole in the floor for the first time is so poorly done, and also the weirdest reveal of what? What are you looking at?
It also gives so many issues to the plot because they met this guy.
Yeah.
Right? And then they see him in this hole in the floor from the acid spoon or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they're like, let's go back to the bar and ask for help. Wait, where the creeper was? Why?
Right. Yeah.
What? That doesn't make any sense.
I average out to a 6.25 for this episode.
Mine was a 7.75 with the scores as they stand, which actually makes it my highest rated episode of the season, which doesn't feel right. But hey, that's where we're at, I guess.
That's all right. Stand by it. I like it. Tale of the Frozen Ghost. Melissa Joan Hart's Are You Afraid of the Dark star turn. Boy, oh boy. I hated this episode. I absolutely remember this as a kid, this episode, but I aggressively dislike it. I think the plot is bonkers. It reads as like a kind of family drama. There's no scares.
This is gonna be your Dark Dragon.
Oh no, really? Oh, I want to hear you
Yeah.
defend this.
Oh boy. Okay. So, but you were saying like you feel like it plays out like a family drama instead of a scary story.
Yeah, I just like I don't. Who's the villain in this?
The aunts, because one of them's clearly a serial killer. Like that.
I mean, they're weird.
No,
I just-
one is clearly the things this woman says. The fact that she's doing needlepoint of a bloody axe.
Yeah, it's a
Like,
little
this
strange.
lady's got problems, all right? There's nothing you can say to convince me otherwise. She has killed everyone.
There are the last 5 minutes of this are bananas. That the way to get rid of the ghost is to just retrieve his jacket because he's cold is bonkers.
it's also like,
Them
wow.
finding money in the like flume is so ridiculous. Like it comes out of nowhere, and it is just like one of those. I don't even know. It's not even a twist. It's something that they like, I guess, introduce at one point early on about the missing money, the robber. I don't know. I barely retained much of the plot.
I do think it has a super weak ending, and actually, when you find out, and I brought this up in my review too, because it's like when you find out like how the kid ended up dead, you're like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would the kid? Like, first off, it wasn't like a kid who lived on this farm. He lived on another farm. So
Right.
why didn't he run back to the other farm when he saw what had happened? And then, like, if he went somewhere in between the two farms and hid in a tree, like, and then the guy took his jacket, but then the jacket still winds up in the tree.
It's a weird bit of unfinished business for a ghost to have that they just left their jacket behind. Like, just none of it makes sense at all. And there's no scares. There's no scares in this episode. I find that kid actor who plays the ghost to be so ineffective.
Oh, no. Anything involving the frozen ghost is terrible. Like, the voice is awful. It's not scary. The fact that they were like, hey, what if we put him in some, like, silky, shiny pajamas? It's like, it would have been more effective if he would have been in his clothing with the pale makeup.
Yeah.
Sort of like the shiny red bicycle ghost. Like, that would have been far more effective.
Totally agreed. Is he not the kid from The Tale of the Nightly Neighbors? Have we reviewed that yet?
We did that last
Yeah.
season.
Do you remember the kid vampire?
I do remember the kid. I think it's a completely different kid.
Probably. They just look the same, and they're both not good.
I mean, that is true. For me, I think because I'm 100% on board with you as far as the wrap up, the nonsensical plot and that kind of thing. And but I thought there was actually some good build up. So when we're talking about like the suspense, I thought there's some good stuff early on, like when they first get to the aunt's house and there's like the scene with like the bulb doing that thing, and then you get like the weird Sam Raimi shot with the camera like coming at the house. Stuff like that. Even when the window blows open, like up to the point where he looks outside and sees baby Liberace, it's like you know, up to that point, it's good. And then suddenly and then they like made the weird decision, like, what if we had the final climax to happen in broad daylight?
It's so bizarre. I gave the plot a 2. I actively disliked how both complicated and like overly simple the plot was. It was just like, I couldn't describe the plot to you. They give you these shreds of history about what the story is, but you don't know enough. You don't see the ghost enough, and the ghost isn't threatening it. Like there's no villain that we know of, right?
Yeah, the ghost just wants his jacket.
Yes.
Like there's no...
Right. It's almost like in the Tale of the Locker 22, where the ghost is a victim of not even a crime, right? Because the boy froze to death?
Yeah.
It just is like, okay, so he's not aggressive in any way. He's not seeking anything, important. So there's no stakes to me. What did you give the plot?
Yeah, it would have... now that we're talking about it, I don't know what I was smoking. because I gave it a 7.
That's all right.
But that is clearly an over over the top score. What they should have done, to be fair, and again, this is just something that with all these stories that basically have no villain, like this criminal that was chasing the kid down. What should have happened is the criminal should have pursued the kid to a point where they both get stuck somewhere and they both died. And then you have a purpose for this ghost trying to seek out people because maybe his ghost is being pursued by this criminal's ghost. And you need to do something to break that cycle so that the ghost can pass on and get justice. And then
or do a Casper type thing where there's a bad ghost and a good ghost, and they're both haunting this house, and then it's like, so actual scary things can happen, but there's a good ghost who is trying to like guide the protagonist to resolve the issue. Instead, it's not that.
I think I'm gonna change that. I know I put a 7 here, but I'm gonna lower that down.
Oh, I've stood by scores in all these episodes that I want to adjust. So do what you got to do. I'm sticking by mine, even if I disagree with them now. But you're making a lot of good points, and they're points that I made in my own video. So I don't know how I came up with a 7. I'm gonna lower it to a 5 because it feels fair. It feels. What about the acting? I gave it a 6. I feel like the ants do a lot of work here. I think they're interesting. I think Melissa Joan Hart is fine. I think the lead kid, the ghost is awful, but the Charles Pemberton Schilling III, he's annoying. Again, it's not his fault. He's supposed to be annoying, but I also found the actors he's just grating. His voice was grating. His performance I found to be just irritating. Oh, really? Yeah.
I actually didn't find him annoying. I found him, to me, it was like he was written to be a certain way, but I didn't find the way that he was written and the way he was performed. I didn't find him to the point where he was, he was rich and spoiled, but I never found it to the point where he was obnoxious. He just feels very sheltered. He wants to be able to do things, but his parents never let him. So I felt like he was a pretty okay character. The aunts, you're right. The aunts do the heavy lifting for the episode, and again, they're just so weird and quirky.
Yeah.
That again, I left that episode thinking they've murdered people and buried them on that farm. That's the only thing I could walk away from that episode with. Melissa Joan Hart is fine. There are scenes where she feels bored.
Yes.
For the most part, she's good.
Yeah.
But there are sequences in this where it just feels like she's just I'm collecting a paycheck.
Yeah. They don't give her a lot to do. It's almost like she is just there as a name. Also, weird parallel that they write a story for her with 2 weird ants living in a gothic house. That's the plot of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I just that's a weird parallel. But this must have aired after Sabrina? 93. That would have been before.
I think it was before Sabrina.
Strange.
Because I remember I mentioned that in the video too, that it was weird that she would go on to play a similar kind of character. Yes, Sabrina was 1996 was when that premiered, so 3 years after.
So this would have been I think Clarissa Explains It All times, a show I never watched, but I'm familiar with.
Yeah, Clarissa was 91 to 94. So
okay, so she wasn't named.
Yeah, right in the middle.
Yeah. The setting I gave a 4. I thought the house was good and was creepy, and a couple of the shots you mentioned I thought were interesting. But again, the house is not meant to be creepy. The ghost isn't even haunting the house. He's standing in a field. There just was I don't think they used it to effect. The images were interesting, but there's nothing really memorable about it to me, other than the light bulb thing.
Yeah, I gave the setting a 7 because I did think that the house, the way they framed a lot of stuff was, I think, done well. Again, up to the point where they filmed the entire climax outside in the day, I was on board with it. That really should have been done at night. I don't know what reason they would have had to be outside at night.
Yeah.
But
I like the idea of where it should have been. I like the idea of a haunted farm, though. That's an interesting concept that I don't think they executed that well. But there's been a few episodes The Hungry Hounds was a haunted farm, and that was a terrible one too. There's been a few. They just haven't gotten that yet. Scares, I gave it 2. I just don't think there's much here. The ghost kid, I think, is just awful. If that's what we're banking on for the creepiness factor, is a kid in pajamas barely acting, it's not good. I'm going to get flack for ragging on this kid so hard.
I ended up giving the scares a 7, but again, a lot of that is just, I think, atmosphere. And again, I thought at the beginning of the episode, the stuff that the tension that they were building is what I'm equating to the scares here, because I thought the tension was really good, and then just
interesting,
right out the window.
I want to watch this. I want to watch this and 13th Floor again now, because I feel like I understand your point, but I never felt the tension. Maybe I didn't pay close enough attention.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like it didn't help that you hated the main kid. I actually thought he was very good at reacting to stuff in a uncomfortable way, so I don't know. It
was an interesting dynamic between them. I like that idea of the overprotected kid and the babysitter who's more kind of I don't know, rough and tumble.
Yeah, where she aggressively shoves him into a mud puddle at one point.
That they show 3 times. Oh no, he trips. They did a triple cut of him falling in a mud puddle.
I remember that too. I was like, what? Why? Why did we do this?
Still in time.
Because
I think they build up how badly they want the audience to dislike that kid and want him to fall in a puddle, that they're like, here's the payoff. It's going to happen. That gives me a... Go ahead.
I thought they were just trying to show that he was doing his own stunts. So they're like, you can really see it's him.
If we're paying him a stunt fee for this, we're going to get our money's worth. That gives me a 3.5 out of 10.
With my adjusted score, the average is a 6.75.
We had different... I put out my lamest moment and best moment. The lamest moment, I've got a list. Best moment, I said, I'm hard-pressed to find one. Charles getting pushed in the mud comes to mind.
Oh, man. Lame. I can't say that I have a best, a best moment in this episode. Actually, I think maybe the best moment is when it's the scene where they're telling the story and the camera just happens to pan around and I get to see that bloody axe needlepoint she's working on, because I had to do a double take. I was like, wait, what? What did I just see?
Yeah, I thought the ants were awesome. I thought they were good. That's what made me interested at all in the episode.
Yeah, in fact, they've got dead stuffed crows all over the house, or ravens or whatever. They're weirdos for sure. Lamest moment is pretty much everything after the ghost shows up.
Oh, yeah. It's bad. It would have been... I'm wondering, if the ghost were scary, if it were the robber who was cold and looking for his jacket, would that have changed anything? But I just don't think so.
I don't know. Yeah, I think... I mean, even the kid could have been... Even with this nonsensical plot, if the ghost had been handled differently, the episode could have been scarier. I even did it. I took a clip of him saying, I'm cold, and I altered the voice and added some ghostly things to it to be this is how it should have been done. I'm not even saying I nailed it, but what I put out was better than
I'm cold.
Yeah,
it sounds like he's got a bit of an accent or something too. It was
so
very
bad.
Bizarre. The Tale of the Full Moon.
Woo!
This is one of those episodes that just feels like a different show. It's so cartoony and colorful. It's like they handed the reins to a totally different set production crew. Different writers, director, everything. What are your general thoughts?
Can I say you remember how I felt about Dark Dragon, right?
I do.
that actually pales in comparison to how I feel about The Tale of the Full Moon.
Really?
Lowest rated episode of the season.
Whoa.
I hate this episode. I hate
More
it.
than Locker 22?
Yes.
Oh, I will.
Yes.
I think I agree with you on a few things, but not that aggressively on this.
I at least like the characters in Locker 22. I hate everyone in this episode.
Oh, I like the lead. I thought the lead was
That's not
good.
true. I like the mom. I feel bad for the mom.
Oh, you liked the mom? Oh, we're going to disagree all over the place on this episode.
Well, I liked... Don't misunderstand me. I don't like the mom. I feel... The mom is from a completely different era and movie and TV show altogether. She does not belong here. But that being said, the kid's a dickweed. I said it.
But I like that actor. I think the actor is good who plays Jed. His friend is a dweeb. His friend is a problem.
Well, when you have a friend who treats you like a dog, what do you expect? that line, that throwaway line about I'm tired of playing fetch with you, and the kid's like, yeah, I keep getting splinters in my mouth. I was like, why are you treating this human being like an animal?
But again, that kind of stuff is like, this doesn't exist in the realm of reality. Even like the mom cooking dinner, and all it is different colors, macaroni and cheese.
Right.
Like it's in this like weird dream universe. There's an equivalent one, which is what is the Ghastly Grinner? Have you reviewed that episode yet?
No, I think that's coming up in like season 4.
It's similarly cartoony, but the premise of it is the lead is an animator and he wants to get into cartoons. So the cut between every scene is like cartoon slides rushing by, and it's like those stinger sounds, like it's all meant to be over the top, and a cartoon villain enters the real world. This one is that world, but with a regular Are You Afraid of the Dark plot. I found it was very strange, but I found it really entertaining, and I thought there were genuinely tense moments. I thought the part where they break into the neighbor's house, I thought was good. For Are You Afraid of the Dark?
So like, you're talking about like at the end, right before the reveal of the monster?
No, when they go in and they look in his fridge and they find his collars and they find like remember he gets snagged on the nail.
Oh, okay, yeah. At the beginning, when it's just him.
Yeah, that sets up that neighbor as being something much scarier than what it ends up being. But I think that whole sequence was like, it could have been out of like not a horror movie, but like to me it was more tense than a lot of these episodes deliver.
I mean, I will give you that one particular moment with the nail is probably the tensest moment of the episode, but also just the way he gets snagged on it and the way that he's like
cannot get
yanking
himself off
unnecessarily.
Of it.
I was just like, come on, dude. And the problem is I was already checked out by that point. And that's like 5 minutes into the episode. There's so many, what's funny is, again, a lot of the issues I have, I probably would not have had as a kid because, you know, this episode is very kid energy. You know what I mean?
Completely. Like, the scary neighbor vibes, the spying on your neighbor stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my opinion of this episode, whether you consider it unjust or not, is because I'm watching it with adult eyes and I can't unsee it with adult eyes.
I get it.
So,
what did you give the plot?
Oh boy, what did I give the plot? You're not going to see, I'm telling you right now, you're not going to see any score over a 5 for this episode. I gave the plot a 2.
I gave the plot a 7. I think that I wrote it works almost like a strange rom-com instead of an Are You Afraid of the Dark plot, but there's something about it that works to me. It's definitely goofy, but I think that the like kid detective stuff and the ending, I think the ending is terrible, but like the reveal of the twin and that stuff, I thought was really effective. The chase through the house and like the way that they deal with that, I thought was surprising and unique at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the sort of climax of where they actually encounter the werewolf, I think it's fine. The werewolf makeup is great. Whoever the performer is in there, the physicality is great. Whether I don't know if it's the actor doing the tongue or if that's like a fake animatronic tongue.
Yeah.
But like all of that felt very real,
Yeah.
and so I give them props on that. But I just feel like it's great makeup in a poor episode. Like that should have been in a better episode.
I mean, I'm not a fan of most monster stuff anyways. Any of the like werewolf vampire stuff I'm never like super into. I gave the acting a 6. I actually think I liked the main kid. I know you didn't. I don't like the adults. The mom is like, again, it's the way the character's written. She's this strange like 60s stereotype, like way over the top. So bizarre.
Makes no sense. It makes no sense.
No, at all. But like, other than that, it exists in the real world. They just made this like aesthetic choice to make the mom was almost like she had like a weird hobby of like where she like fetishized living in the 60s or something. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah, but then like their whole house is decorated like that too.
That's what I mean. Yeah, and like, but the part that was even stranger and that makes it not just the mom is when his Huey, the friend, is in the bathtub and takes the phone call, and he's also like stuck in this era. It was very bizarre.
Yeah, to me, it felt like someone had just watched Edward Scissorhands.
Yes,
and was like,
totally.
And was like inspired by that suburb to.
That's
make
totally
this episode.
right. You might have a point there, actually, because I wonder if that is like, it's a specific, suburban look that was really like stuck in an era.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't. The acting is the highest rating I gave the episode, which was a 4. But again, it's that I just didn't like anyone in this episode. And again, the mom, I just feel, I don't think the actress it's one of those things where it's, again, trying to separate myself from the character. The actress did a fine job at playing this batshit crazy character.
Yeah.
And if anything, I felt bad for her because, like, she's clearly lonely, and then her son is like, Dad would know what to do. Like, shut up.
Yeah.
Just shut up.
Nightmare.
I hate you and your money grubbing. Like, he's like, I want a dog. And if we, like, this is where they got me off this character, is right from the start. He's overcharging his customers. Okay?
Yeah.
So he's like, why are you going to charge her 20? We charge 5. It's because I want this dog. And if we get this thing, the dog costs $20, I'll be able to buy the dog. And it's like, no, you wouldn't. You're in a business with a partner. You don't get to keep $20. Like, that's not how that works. Unless that is how that works. And now I hate you even more.
Yeah.
So, but again, that has nothing to do with the acting.
No, I appreciate any actors that can commit, especially given a role like that. Like, I'd rather that. I'd rather they go full bore, 100% goofy, insane, than like phoning it in like a Melissa Joan Hart. You know, where you're just like, it's just a day for you, and you're like, all right, I'm here to play a teenager.
I will give Jed this. He does know how to act like he sat on a whistle like nobody's business.
A ridiculous moment. In the same vein, the setting I gave a 4. The setting is my lowest rating. I don't like the retro vibes of it. It's just not for me. And again, it makes it like, it doesn't fit with the rest of the show. Which, like, I guess it doesn't have to with an episodic thing like this, like an anthology almost series, but I don't know. It just struck such a different tone that I didn't love it.
Yeah, I gave the setting a 2. I didn't care for it either. So everything was too brightly lit. Again, there's a lot of day shots for this, and I understand when you're working with kids, you know, it's stuff like that. But it didn't work for me.
I did give the scares a 5 because I think the stuff at night was effective. I liked the first reveal of the werewolf through the telescope thing. I liked the whole final chase thing, the twin reveal. I thought was genuinely like one of the only jump scares of this whole season.
Because I think he has a twin brother.
When you know it's coming, it's something. But like, that plot thing I didn't see coming. When they sneak into his house knowing he's not there, that's another like kind of tense moment. And then the chase upstairs I thought was really well done. So again, it's on a scale based on, you know, when you're comparing it to Locker 22, this is like the scariest thing you've ever seen. But
I mean, it probably deserves higher than I gave it, and maybe everything else is affecting my judgment. I gave it a 1 for scares. I found nothing about this episode scary. And again, I appreciated the makeup, and I didn't even let that affect my score, which I should have, because I think they did a really... Werewolf makeup oftentimes is some of the worst makeup you will see, both in practicality and when they do digital, right? This was all practical, and I think it looked good.
totally.
Like, if I had seen that werewolf makeup in a movie about werewolves, I wouldn't be mad at it.
Yeah.
And
they didn't shy away from showing it. You know, like when they do the telescope thing from afar, it's one thing and it looks great through slats and through like it's all at a distance and grainy. But then toward the end, they don't hesitate to show a full face shot of that werewolf for like a good 10-second hold. Which is like, shows some confidence in their effects.
Yeah, that's where the whole budget went, I think, is straight to that makeup. It was good.
That gave me a 5.5 out of 10. I have a feeling yours is lower.
It's a 2.25.
My lowest so far is a 3. I won't spoil anything and say if there's one lower, but Locker 22, man, the worst. So as I mentioned earlier, with David's stories, there's always a grain of sadness. And the tale of the shiny red bicycle, holy smokes. This is like a weirdly adult plot. I found it very, like, kind of touching. For an Are You Afraid of the Dark story, it's really, like, heartfelt. What were your first impressions?
I think we're on the same page here.
Yeah.
This is it was one of the comments I made is that I really liked, because a lot of times in Are You Afraid of the Dark, the families are terrible. Like adults, they're awful. And even though the parents in this are a bit misguided in what they're doing, they legitimately care about their kid and they're just trying to do what they think is best for them. And like, I felt like they all cared about each other. And it was like, it was refreshing. It was such a weird, refreshing feel for this show.
And they were all really good actors. I think across the board. And parents, I find often in these shows are not great actors because, like I said before, I think they're guided into performances that are stereotypes. But this one was like weirdly nuanced. I thought the lead was great. Like legitimately a very good actor. I didn't look into what he's doing now, but like for a show with this kind of material where like he's not getting great lines, certainly, I was really effective. And I think that they do the ghost stuff pretty well. Like they're not using any like real like huge effects or anything, but like, and it's not scary per se, but it was compelling in a similar way that they tried to use the ghost in what was the one we just Frozen Ghost, where he just like appears and you just see him like at a distance a lot of the time. Something about this one just worked a lot better.
It's because he didn't talk with a voice that sounded like he was on helium.
True. But that's true. But I mean, in any other circumstance, that would make me feel like, well, he's just a guy that they painted white. Like, well, I don't know, it's just an actor in a white costume. But something about this one, like, I don't know, maybe just with the plot and stuff, it made it more effective.
I think the framing goes a long way. And, you know, like you said, the acting of our lead. But like one of the scenes that I think about is when he's in the nurse's office, right? And he like she's talking and he suddenly starts to zone out. So you get that weird like audio sound. And like he sees the ghost outside. And when he's like, and when he goes to react and tell her, then he looks over and suddenly the ghost is right there. Like that's a great way of doing that and building that tension. So I think that's one of the big differences between something like this and Frozen Ghost. Totally.
Well, and you get that final confrontation, or like where he actually appears to him and he actually is right there and they get to talk, which is a little strange, but like it works. And I think plot-wise it works. The plot I gave a 9 out of 10. I think it's really good. I think it's really sad, but I found it really compelling and easy to watch and easy to follow. And like, it's not the most original thing in the world. Like a ghost trying to warn his friend of a similar fate befalling his brother. It's not like, you know, we've seen it in a few things, but I think the performances sell it so well that I felt like hooked in and I cared about the characters. What did you think?
I also gave it a 9.
Hey, look at us.
Second matchup of the season. Woo!
It's really good.
It's his performance is really strong and like it just opens in a way that you don't expect. Like, you know, these kids riding their bike and then water goes by and this kid falls in and this other kid tries to save him and can't and wakes up because he's having nightmares about the fact that he couldn't save his friend as a kid. And it was like, this feels very real. And it's stuff that does happen in real life. Yeah. And we're showing this kid dealing with it in a realistic way. It was just.
Yeah. And it's a little like, again, unexpected for Are You Afraid of the Dark, where there's normally like a villain and a hero, and the villain gets defeated. Like, that's what I tend to look for. Those tend to be the episodes I like the best, where there's a Zebo, or there is, like, the pool monster thing, or there's, like, a really tangible villain. And this one doesn't have that. And I still really found it compelling.
I disagree. I think there is a clear villain in this. I don't think the character has a name, but it's one of the brother's friends.
Oh, yeah, my God.
Little twat.
Shit.
Isn't that where your brother's friend died? And then like
anyone should get pushed in the river. I think we can all agree.
Like, you accidentally knock a soda over, so you chuck his lure or whatever, which is really what results in him getting trapped in the water. I wanted that kid to be punched in the throat.
That being said, I thought the kid was really good. I thought the bully was really good. I thought the nurse was really good. Like, these peripheral characters, even aside from the main cast, I thought were so strong. I gave the acting a 9 because I just thought they were all really effective. And the lead actor I thought was awesome. If anything, maybe the younger brother I think is a weak point, but really, I really liked all of them.
Yeah, he's not. I wouldn't say he's great, but I don't think he's bad either.
No.
And he's surrounded by great people, so I think it's just, yeah. I didn't give it a 9, I give it an 8, but I think it's a very strong cast throughout the whole episode for sure.
Yeah. The setting I gave a 7. There's not much there. It's all a lot of daylight stuff. In fact, I think it's all daylight stuff. But the memory sequences I think are interesting, and they do well to like. They're not action sequences, but the stuff with the river is like exciting. There's something there that I don't know. It's unfamiliar for Are You Afraid of the Dark, like a new kind of setting, I guess, which I appreciated.
I gave the setting a 5. Again, it's just because it's you got your school setting and stuff like that. That they're all pretty bland, like you say. There's a lot of daylight stuff, but I do think that the filmmakers in this episode were able to use that stuff in an effective way. Like I said, the ghost stuff at the school very much reminded me of like Nightmare on Elm Street when they would be seeing like Freddy in the school.
Yeah.
And it felt just as effective. So
yeah.
I think they utilized the kind of lackluster setting well.
What did you give for the scares in that same vein?
I actually gave it an 8 because again, I don't think they don't do anything that's like crazy scary, but the way that they frame the ghost in a lot of these situations, I thought was very scary.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad, because I gave it a 6, and I thought I'd maybe inflated it just because I liked the episode, but I think you're right. I think there's like because we're invested in the storyline, it adds a lot to those moments, even though they're few and far between, and even though they're not like jump scares, it just like infuses it with more tension and more kind of emotion, I think.
Yeah. And I think I think you're right. It's easier because this character is so believable too. It's easier to put yourself in his place. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like if I were at a cabin on a farm with some crazy ants that I didn't know I had, and I woke up in the middle of the night and the window blew open and I looked outside and saw Tiny and Shiny outside, I would probably start laughing. But if I were this kid in his room and I'm asleep and I see this pale ghost of my former friend just looming over me, not saying anything, I would probably wet myself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so
I do love the idea of a Halloween costume just being every ghost from Are You Afraid of the Dark, and you just wear all pale gray, you wet your hair, and you just stand.
It don't say anything.
Yeah, that gives me a 7.75 for this episode.
I'm actually at a 7.5 on this episode, so we were very close.
Yeah, I think this is our closest episode. This one really stuck with me too as a kid, which is interesting because I don't remember ever being like scared of it, but again, it's like compelling, which is likely what they were going for with something like Locker 22. But it just didn't have the same kind of heart. And again, I think it's the acting. I think the acting delivers it much more effectively. You sympathize with that main character.
Yeah, I agree.
The Tale of the Magician's Assistant. I tend to immediately lose interest with magician plot lines. Not that I don't like Gary's stories, because they're always magician plot lines. But we didn't have Sardo in this one. So I feel like I ended up liking this more than I should have.
You should. I like it. You're like, I shouldn't have liked it, but I did somewhat.
What were your thoughts on Magician's Assistant?
Look, Shandu can do.
Oh boy, I say that, I quote that on a daily basis. Honestly, if I'm asked to do a favor, I'll say Shandu can do, and I recognize no one will know what that's from.
Shandu can do!
So this episode is, I'm a little bit mixed on it because this is one of those where I hate the primary character. I think they're kind of selfish and stuff. And I'm going to go to try to get this job and I'm immediately going to try to touch shit that I'm not supposed to, even when I'm flat out told not to.
But he was doing it to help his mom, wasn't he?
That's where it ends though. Cause that's what, when the episode starts and he's like, my mom needed help, so I was going to go look for a job. And I was like, hey, what a sweet guy. And then he goes to get the job and he goes inside, first off, enters unannounced.
Yep.
Okay. And then immediately tries to grab this thing. And it's like, that is not yours. Do not touch that. And then he gets the job regardless and then is told, don't touch that. And then he still tries to touch it. And I'm like,
kids will be kids, you know?
Sure.
But he uses the wand to help his mom work so they can spend more time together. That's sweet. He's the perfect character.
Like, he's like, why? Just like, he's so whiny. He spends like one day with Shandu, and then he's like, he's the worst. And it's like, bro, he's teaching you magic tricks. You don't know what a horrible boss is. I think that was some of my jaded adultness.
Yeah. I mean, I felt the same way at my first job. That was at Dairy Queen, so I can't blame the kid. But I also have.
Were they teaching you magic tricks at Dairy Queen? They were.
Some might say. I do have the wand. This tree was pointed out when I reviewed this episode, and I didn't notice at the time that I have the exact same tree he tries to fake the wand with. I gave the plot a 7 out of 10. I actually think there was some surprising moments in this. Like, I think the structure of the plot worked really well, and I actually liked how Todd kind of learned to outsmart the villain. It's hokey as hell. Like, as soon as they teach a kid like a mantra, like, here are the 3 rules to blah, 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 blah. You know how it's going to end, but like, I still found it interesting enough.
Yeah, I gave the plot on this a 6. Yeah, a 6. I agree with you in some regard. There were enough twists and turns. I mean, even the way the episode ends, I'm still not 100% sure on, like, was it Shandu the whole time just testing the kid? Was there never actually a demon? Was there a demon, but it was Shandu's intention for him to release the demon? Like, I feel like they did that very well. It's where you're not really sure at the end.
This reminded me of Jake and the Leprechaun. Because it had very, like, here are the 3 rules to defeat this character. And there was, like, a bit of a mentorship vibe to it, that whole thing.
Yeah. I feel like I liked this better, though.
Agreed. Oh, totally agreed. Yeah. Actually, the kid, I don't think it's the same actor, but they look very similar. Todd and Jake.
So I thought I saw something somewhere that they're brothers?
That wouldn't totally surprise me. They're very similar episodes.
I also know that this kid is also from The Tale of the Twisted Claw.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the main kid.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Interesting. The acting on that note, I gave a 7. I think it was decent. Nothing like super groundbreaking. I actually liked Shandu. Again, as a counterpoint to someone like Sardo, I thought he was, I don't know, fine. He was like intimidating, but not over the top cheesy. And like, you saw in his actual performance that he has another side to his character where he's like an entertainer and charismatic and stuff. And I thought the kid had an interesting arc. He's shitty. Like, you can tell his motivations are a little bit muddy, but I don't know. I kind of buy it. I buy a kid's motivations being that.
You said you gave it a 7?
Yeah.
That's 3 for us.
Woo!
Woo!
It's happening.
I also gave it a 7. I loved Shandu. Like, yeah. I would watch a Shandu TV show of just Shandu doing what Shandu do. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what it would be. I don't know what the plot would be, but I would watch it. Like, he was very compelling. Again, you're right. He shows the showmanship. He's got that. He has that moment where he like softens up and, kind of reveals that he's not just an angry old man and like why he is the way he is.
Yeah.
It's, the character had depth, which is very nice. And everyone else in the episode is fine. Like, I don't think the kid's acting is great. I think he's probably the weakest member of the episode. I'm not saying he's terrible, but especially when you got him paired up against Shandu, like this, Shandu is acting circles around this kid, and it doesn't help make him look any better, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But everyone else, like the knockoff Emperor Palpatine was fine. The mom, the mom actually I really enjoyed because
I like the mom a lot.
She does just mom stuff, but then she also gets the moment where she's like possessed or whatever. So I think the acting was pretty good overall. Yeah.
Setting, there's not much there. I gave it a 6. It was like I like the magic hut thing. I don't know. It's a lot of light.
Yeah, his TARDIS. It was like way bigger on the inside than it is on the outside.
Yes, very strange.
But also he's given magic shows to people on the side of the road in a park. That felt weird.
Yeah, it was like a food truck.
Yeah.
he lived in, apparently.
I guess the theater wasn't in the budget for this episode.
No. So 6 out of 10 for me.
I give it a 5 out of 10.
And then
again, there was nothing offensive about it. It's just kind of there.
Yeah, nothing to phone home about. I gave the scares an 8. I actually didn't mind Nazrak as like the villain. It's not like great makeup, but there was a couple moments that I found really creepy. Him like drifting across the room and some of the reveals. I liked the twist with the mom. The possessed mom was kind of interesting. And again, it's compared to certain other episodes, especially this season, that I think I think an 8.
I give it a 5. I didn't find it particularly scary. There were some good moments. Again, I like you just cited, the mom getting possessed is a great reveal. And I think if you were a little kid, that would probably be like, whoa,
Yeah.
And even Nazrak would probably come across pretty creepy. But he defeats himself in a silly way. So
absolutely.
The kid, you could have just touched him with the wand. He was standing right in front of you.
You're so scared. That gives me a 7 out of 10 average, which feels high, but I liked it, I guess.
Man, I'm not that far off. I give a 6.25.
I didn't love the magician training stuff. The like montage of him learning. I was just like, all right. Like, I feel like we could have gotten there quicker, I think.
Yeah, probably. It didn't feel needed, but
yeah.
Especially because we don't ever see it kind of come up again. Like if you would have seen more of like him doing magic tricks at the end to that, I mean, I don't know why he would, but you know, it would have been better. But.
Yeah. The Tale of the Hatching. Finally, we have a great setting. I think a creepy boarding school is like this is where all Are You Afraid of the Dark should be set. It's good. It's such a better alternative to like a modern day high school. Like it's just like gives us that kind of gothic look, uniforms and stuff. It's just like just more interesting generally. What did you think?
Kind of in the same place. This was a great setting for this, and the story that they tell, I feel, is pretty good. I think the only thing that holds this back for me is the weakness of the monster in this episode, but I think pretty much everything else I thought was really, really strong. The acting effects, all that.
The monster reveal is so lame, and I wish it wasn't because they build up. It's such a good build up. I think plot wise, it's really interesting and compelling. And I think the performances are really good too. Like, I think it's just like, this seems like a much higher budget episode. Like, to me, the production value in this is like way, way, way through the roof compared to the average Are You Afraid of the Dark episode.
Well, I'm wondering if maybe that is a factor. You know how some episodes just inherently feel cheap? I wonder if they just have like a budget for the year.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean? For like a season, and then they allocate it more to certain episodes. Because
it's the reason even a show like Friends does a bottle episode where they stay in the apartment the entire time. It's totally a budgeting thing, I would guess.
Yeah.
So plot, I gave it an 8. I thought it was pretty unique for Are You Afraid of the Dark, and the scale of it felt big. It wasn't just like a couple of friends, going on a werewolf hunt. It was just big. There was a lot of extras. It just felt like almost cinematic. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I thought it was pretty compelling. Again, all of my scores are kind of undermined by the villain reveal. Just to keep that in mind.
I think we're finally jiving because I also gave it an 8.
Nice. It's happening. We've come together toward the end of the season.
The acting, I also gave an 8 as well.
Me too.
Hey! Woo! All right, this is interesting. Let's see if we can get the perfect score.
I thought the two leads were great, and I also thought the henchmen, I guess, the teachers, I thought were great. I thought they were super interesting. The parents were fine. It all just worked really well. Yeah,
they are the administrators. I think are the strongest of the episode because they go from being sort of sweet and innocent, right? Like you believe that they're school administrators, but their turn at the end, they are just so over the top. They dial it up to 11 when they're like cackling and you're about to be eaten and all that stuff. Like they do a really, really good job.
I hated the green slime martinis. It was so stupid. Again, they work so hard to create this environment that's eerie, and then they throw in like the cheesiest like slime effect. It was awful.
It felt like it was a mandate, right? But like Nickelodeon, they're like, look, that's kind of our thing. So
yeah, we need to sell a product that's tied to this episode. So we've given you gack. The setting I gave a 10 out of 10 because I loved it. I thought it was perfect. It worked so well. The reveal of the basement when they go into the kind of factory style basement thing, I thought was really interesting.
Well, this is where we differ, but I gave it an 8. Still solid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. The school is very good. The whole like sub-basement area where all the eggs are is done really well. And I mean, they're clearly 2 different locations for filming, but the fact that they got those locations and just made it work really well, like the whole sewer thing. Because look, I will give you that the monster is not great, but the setting around it and the fact that they use heavy fog. And they don't show it very much. You know what I mean? Like they do a couple of quick cuts and then it explodes. I feel like it actually works overall, even though, if we would have had like a full-on encounter with that Muppet, I don't think it would.
But they almost should have. I would have preferred they just allude to it more than show any of it. Like show its silhouette in the smoke. Show you could have made it much bigger or made it, but that's what it should have been. It should have been a scale thing. Like the fact that I felt the kids could have fought this thing. It wasn't big. It wasn't like, it just felt like Bowser. Like, it felt like a cartoon.
It looked like Bowser, to be honest with you. Yeah, what they could have done probably is if they would have just gotten like a huge arm, like a mechanical arm coming out like a claw sort of a thing, like coming out of the fog. Yeah. You're right. That would have been way more effective than what we got. But
for the scale of the episode, it felt like a lame villain. On that note, the scares I gave a 6. I thought they're really good tense moments. I just didn't find the villains generally that scary.
Adam, it saddens me that I didn't give the setting a 10 because we would have had the exact same scores for everything otherwise.
Got a 6 as well?
I also gave it a 6. Yeah.
Well, that averages me... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the scares aren't like... They're not really scary, but I thought that the makeup effects on, like, especially when he did the arm reveal, I thought was really good.
Yeah.
And just the way they dialed everything up, like the zombie kids, all that stuff I thought worked very effectively.
Oh, I love that like descent down to the basement when they're all hypnotized and they, the 2 leads like just go along with it and pretend until they pull each other aside. I thought that was a cool moment. That gives me an average of 8 out of 10.
So it gives me a 7.5.
Nice. And finally, the tale of the old man Corcoran, Great. What did you think of this episode?
I don't love it. I think I gave it a pass, but like it was one of those like barely. Like I said, it met the approval of the Midnight Society, but like barely. I don't. It's just one of those. It's kind of like it's there. It's not. I don't find it particularly good. I don't find it particularly bad. It's just pretty average.
I really liked it, but I think that they give the audience a bit too much. I think that the reveal is not effective because they hint at it so aggressively within the first 10 minutes that like, I don't know how, I guess kids may not pick up on it, but to me, I just like, okay, let's just get there quicker. And they draw out the reveal so long and you see the kids in the graves and you like, it just is like, oh my God. But I found it entertaining. I didn't love the acting almost across the board. But I thought plot-wise it was pretty interesting. The plot I gave an 8. Because I think it's creative for Are You Afraid of the Dark? It's creepy. I like the idea of playing hide-and-go-seek in a graveyard would like really appeal to me as a kid. And that being the twist that they're playing with these ghost kids, I think was interesting.
Yeah, I gave it a 4. To me, it's... They do ghost kids all the time. It didn't feel particularly new or anything like that for me. And the twist was fine, but it's one of those where it just leaves me with more questions than anything at the end of the episode. I will say this. This is an episode that I feel like on a first viewing is you see it one way, and then on a second viewing you see it a different way. Because when you get to the end and you realize what the twist is, it changes the way that every other character was being in the episode. You know what I mean? Like the lead ghost, I don't even remember the kid's name, mainly because they don't say it until the end. But that ghost, he's like, hey, yeah, come on, let's go play tag. You know, he's like being cool, like wants to bring more friends into the fold. Yeah. And then you've got Sissy, right? Sissy, is that?
Sissy Vernon.
Yeah, who was also from Laughing in the Dark. She was the sister in that. And she's like, no, we don't want new kids here, right? So she seems just kind of like a kind of a jerk. But then you get to the end of the episode and you're like, oh, no. No, she didn't want to see these kids killed. And this jerk is just content murdering children to add more to his hide and seek game.
But were they, I might have missed that. Were they, I thought they were just compelling them to play hide and seek because they wanted to like new people. But they weren't like, were they killed by Old Man Corcoran?
No, I think they were killed by, and they don't go into it, but the implication is, I don't think Corcoran has anything to do with it.
No.
I think that the ghosts are luring these kids in, and then the kids die in the graveyard, and then they become part of the game forever. Because that's, like, at the end where he's like, come on in here, they'll never find you in here, in the grave, and it's like, that's sick.
Oh, see, I like that even more.
You're sick. I mean, it's a great, like I said, that's a great twist, and when I rewatched the episode with that knowledge, I'm like, I actually enjoy the episode more, because I feel like they subvert it so well.
Right. I gave the acting a 7. I think one of the brothers is awesome, and the other brother is terrible. Okay, rarely does that happen, I think.
I want to know, because I feel the same, but I want to know which brother you think
there's no way we're disagreeing on this. Kenny, who is the younger brother, I thought was great.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're on the same list.
Well, the older brother was, I think, disguising a maybe French-Canadian accent.
Do you think that's what was affecting his performance?
Something was, because there are moments. I rewatched my review of this episode, and it makes me cringe because I make fun of it, and then I realize like it might be a legitimate speech impediment, or he's covering some kind of accent because he has some he says like we aren't. That was the one I remember. He's trying to say we aren't, and he adds about 7 syllables to it.
Oh wow! What's funny is I actually made fun of one of his lines as well. Because I called it the worst line reading I have heard in Are You Afraid of the Dark? And it's where they get in trouble for ripping his pants, for ripping Kenny's pants.
Yeah.
And so they're having to paint the garage or whatever. And the one kid's, the younger brother is like, I wish mom had never gone back to school. And then he's like, I don't even remember the full line, but it was like, Don't you talk that way about mom? Like his whole line is just all rambled together.
Yeah,
there's no
he slurs
pauses.
It all.
Yeah, and it was just like, why was that the final take?
Mom went through a lot to get us out of that old neighborhood. Don't ever wish we were back there in front of her.
Why did someone
my
was
favorite,
like, got it.
My favorite line of his is right before Kenny runs off and he's about to go into Old Man Corcoran's house or whatever. And he goes, if I die, it's his fault.
If I die, it's his fault.
I'm like, that is the darkest thing you could ever say about your younger brother. And he delivers it in, that slurred kind of like, where are we even going? Like, you barely can make out what he's saying. Agreed. Well, so I gave 7 out of 10 just because I actually think the Ghost Kids were mostly good, but that brother's performance was rough.
What did I do for this? Apparently I did not feel the same. I gave the acting a 3. And I think the younger brother is doing the heavy lifting there, which I don't know why I rated it so low, because I actually don't think the Ghost Kids are that bad. Sissy is still, like, she's basically the same kid that she was in Laughing in the Dark, but she has that whole ghost story about Old Man Corcoran, and it's one of the worst deliveries I've ever heard.
It's over the top. But again, that was directed, I think. Like, it was really like, they really spell it out for you.
They say he was crazy. They say he caught this kid stealing something from his shack. So he took an axe and cut his hand off.
Again, it's a theater performance.
And then Corcoran is fine. I mean, it's the same guy from The Hungry Hounds.
It's John Lithgow.
Yeah. It's John Lithgow if you sucked all the talent out of him.
Exactly right.
I mean, he's fine here, but he has like, what, 3 lines or something like that? He doesn't really have much to do.
Also, why is the episode called The Tale of Old Man Corcoran? I get it. It's supposed to trick us, I guess, into thinking he's this villain, but like, they really has nothing to do with him.
Did you notice and I pointed this out in my video, the grave. So when Kenny stops to read the grave, as you are once, so was I, or whatever.
Yeah.
That is almost the exact same thing that was scribbled on, the same epitaph that was scribbled on the grave in Hungry Hounds.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe they just didn't want to get a different prop or set piece.
They're like a little, like, the lines are a little bit different, but there is one line that's almost completely identical, and it's like, what are we doing here?
Remember, friends, as you pass by. As you are now, so once was I. Remember in life that you must die.
As you are, so was I. As I am, so will you be.
Like, what?
They've reused, it's funny because you see one of the gravestones, I forget the name, they very clearly show a name on it. It's going to kill me because I made it was like a main joke in one of the videos I reviewed, but it comes up a few times. Oh, it's going to kill me. I don't remember. But I think they do reuse a couple of the sets from this. They must be shot in the same area.
The same forest graveyard?
Yeah. So setting I gave a 9 to. I mean, it's hard to beat. I think they do, again, we talked about this right off the top of this video, but they finally figured out how to film a graveyard at night without it seeming way too bright or way too dark.
Yeah, I gave it an 8. I think they're, especially this season, all the graveyard stuff has been their best work.
Yes, yeah, totally agreed. Scares I gave a 7. I think there are good creepy moments. I think there's tension built up when he goes into Old Man Corcoran's house. There's no big jump scares, but I like the idea of playing hide and go seek in a graveyard. So I think the setup for it is interesting. Once you watch the episode and look back, it's not scary.
Yeah, that's probably a little low. I gave it a 2. But I think as a kid watching this, yeah, it would be way scarier than I considered it. I didn't find those moments as tense as you did in the cabin and stuff like that. Although that reveal when they're both in the cabin and the flashlight goes off to the side, that is one of the best reveals. I don't find it scary. I actually laugh every time I see it. Yes. It just brings me so much joy.
Well, once you rewatch it knowing what's coming, and you can very clearly see him hand the flashlight into the dark and drop it. All right, what are we doing here? That gives me an average of 7.75, which feels high, but...
mine was a 4.25, which seems low, so...
Why don't we go to our best actor, worst actor? Do you have picks for these?
Oh man, out of the whole season. You go first.
Okay. Best actor, I was tied. I really liked Pete from Midnight Madness, strangely. And I really liked Mike from Red Bicycle, but I gotta go with Mike. I think that performance is makes that episode really compelling.
And are we just sticking with we're sticking with main character, child actors, right?
Oh, I didn't go with anybody.
Okay. Oh, that's so hard to rate then. You know what? I'm going to do one of both. I'll do it. I'm going to do best adult, best kid. And I have to 100% agree with you. Mike from Shiny Red Bicycle, hands down. There's just so much depth to the performance that's delivered there. It's really, really good. Best adult actor. I got to give it to Shandu. I love that guy. I don't know why.
I totally agree with you. I thought he was great. Worst actor, gotta be Frozen Ghost Kid from Frozen Ghost. I hated that kid. Not the kid. Not the actor, I guess. But that performance, I just do not understand what they were thinking.
I always
what
find
the direction was.
I find it difficult to rate ghost characters because they give the ghosts the same direction. Stand there and don't emote. So I always find it difficult. I agree, the voice is terrible, but I can't really say the kid's the worst actor. I mean, he's tiny, so he probably is, but he's just young, so
but
he's
there's a way to commit to even that. If the only lines you have are "I'm cold," they want you to deliver it as sheepish or whatever direction he was given. I just think it was a lack of commitment. I'm talking about a 7-year-old. I get it. I get it. I'm being a bully.
I mean, look,
I don't know. Just
anyone who has ever seen Pet Sematary knows that you can get an extremely small child to be the scariest thing you've ever seen in your life. Totally. So it's entirely doable. They just did not do that here. Yeah. Oh man, worst actor.
I remembered the name on the gravestone. It's Ron Oil. It shows up in like 3 Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes very clearly.
Oh, yeah.
Ron Oil.
It's because it's a reference to the director of the episode.
Okay, I figured it had to be because they show it. So is that it?
Yeah,
I know Ron Oliver. He's a director in town.
You know him?
Yeah, assuming it's the same Ron Oliver, he's done like a few Hallmark movies in Vancouver, and he's directed like, he's a local.
It might be. He wrote a bunch of episodes and directed a bunch of episodes.
Oh, I didn't realize that was the reference. That's hilarious. Yeah, I've never worked on one of his projects, but like I've auditioned for him before in town. That's so bizarre. Anyways.
That's incredible. Ooh, no, I don't want to offend you by saying he's the worst actor. I also don't think he's the worst actor. Man, I think I'm gonna give worst actor to Bobcat Goldthwait. No, that's
get ready for the ire from my fans because they love him apparently.
No, I'm not. I love Bobcat. I like him in comedies where he is appropriate.
Yes.
I feel like he was
weird.
Yeah, he was
and you know what?
miscast.
That is a prime example of not committing to a role. Because like that to me was someone phoning it in. He was doing his shtick, but it was still just like came across as like kind of apathetic. I'm sure he's a great actor. I don't know him from much, but like in this context, it was a weird choice.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna give my worst actor to the brother from Old Man Corcoran.
A good call. Yeah, that's a better call than Frozen Ghost Guy.
Good. Jack, I think, is the character's name.
Yep. Scariest villain. I put Nosferatu from Midnight Madness. I know that's not what he's called in it. Whatever. the vampire.
It's really weird. I put Master Raymond. No, I'm kidding. I'm absolutely kidding.
Do not.
That's the issue is, like you said already, there's not a lot of scary villains. There's scary situations, but like the villains themselves, there's just not any real good ones. I think I have to agree with you here because really, I mean, there's the administrators from the Tale of the Hatching, right?
There's Nazrak.
And that's about it.
Yeah.
There's not really any other like main villains. So I think, you know what though, I think I'm gonna give it to the school administrator characters. I think and part of it's probably just because they bring me so much joy and just how over the top they were. But I think they brought some real menace. Not the big animatronic puppet
Bowser.
thing, but those two characters, yes, I think they were the scariest.
What about lamest villain? I have two contenders, but I think I've settled on one.
Probably the same creature from the Hatching.
I don't have that actually, but it should be there. I have the Sandman from The Tale of the Final Wish. Got to give it to Bobcat. Or I put the teacher from Tale of Locker 22. I just hated the Tale of Locker 22 so badly. There isn't a villain in that, but it's got to be him, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, if you want it, I'll give it to you. I think it counts.
I'm going to go with the teacher. It's got to be that. It's bad.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Bobcat. I think, because again, I was actually really digging that episode until he showed up, and then he just killed it for me. Or he didn't kill it. He turned it into a comedy for me, which is not what I wanted. So
why don't we give our top 3 episodes and our bottom 3 episodes based on those rankings? Okay. My top 3, my number 1 is The Tale of the 13th Floor, which I have a feeling is in your bottom 3. Number 1's 13th Floor. Number 2 is The Tale of the Hatching. And then I have a 3-way tie for number 3 that I think I will give to The Tale of Midnight Madness. It's between that, Shiny Red Bicycle, and Old Man Corcoran. But Midnight Madness to me just like, it's a good whole episode. It's like well-rounded.
Okay. My number 1, based on our scores here, is Tale of the Whispering Walls. My number 2 is The Tale of the Shiny Red Bicycle. And my number 3 is Midnight Madness. for top episodes. Yes.
And my bottom 3 are very clearly The Tale of the Final Wish. What is The Tale of the Final Wish? Why am I not remembering that right now?
That's Bobcat. That's the Bobcat
Oh, of course.
episode.
Yeah. I call it The Tale of Bobcat Goldthwait. Tale of the Final Wish, Tale of the Frozen Ghost, and last, so clearly, with a score of 3, is The Tale of Locker 22.
Okay. I actually have a 2-way tie for number 3, for like third worst, which is Dream Machine and Dark Dragon. Number 2 for worst was Old Man Corcoran, and my absolute worst episode of this season is Tale of the Full Moon. With by far, it's
That's interesting.
It's all 2 points lower than every other episode that I rated.
So we have totally different bottom 3 episodes. Those all land kind of middling for me. Dark Dragon, Full Moon, Dream Machine are all like 5-ish.
Yeah. It just goes to prove that everyone has individual tastes, so don't hate us in the comments.
Exactly. That's the moral of this story. Well, I'm glad we got to do this again. This season 2 gets weird. Season 1, I feel like, had a lot of nostalgia for me. There's some like classic episodes in there. But I do think getting into season 3, we pick up back into some like scary episodes. I think season 3 is Dead Man's Float, which is classically my favorite episode, but we'll have to meet up in a year and see. Yes.
I always enjoy this too. I say it like we've been doing it for years.
Classic tradition.
Yes. But no, I have a great time talking these over with you. And again, it's getting to kind of hear that different perspective and discuss, what we think about the episode, the pluses, the minuses, and even changing some opinions. I know I have some different opinions now on some of these episodes from our discussion. So I always enjoy it.
And for you watching at home, please feel free to leave us your rankings in the comments. At least give us your top 3 and maybe your most hated. That would be entertaining. Or if you have the time, use the exact same rubric. More importantly, though, I believe that we still have a bust of the creature from The Tale of the Dead Man's Float to give away.
We do.
So, in the link, in the description, will be... it'll send you to Michael's website, correct?
Yeah, I'll break it down. So, and again, this is just because last year when we tried it, we just had a hard time getting a hold of the person that won, is what it boiled down to. So, this time we're adding a little bit more structure. The link will take you to my website. There will be a contest page where you just enter your name and your email address. And who knows, maybe we'll keep it fun and make you put down your favorite episode from season 2 or something like that. But that will submit you to win, and then we'll do a drawing. And this time, when the winner gets announced, I will have an email address directly to contact the winner. So,
perfect.
There you go.
Phew. Nice. Thank you for watching. Have a great Halloween, and we'll see you in a year.